These were the opening moves of Hans Niemann with the white pieces versus Anish Giri playing with black. Now this is the Hans Niemann versus the World Tour. It's the Netherlands leg. He's playing Anish Giri. Details on screen. We've had a blitz portion which Niemann won by 3 games. Now we're into the classical. Day 1, Giri won a game and they drew 1. Now this is day 2. 2 more games, then 2 more classical games tomorrow, and we finish with some rapid play. What a game this was. An incredible endgame, the likes I haven't seen in a long time. So Niemann goes knight f3. Clock time's on the left. This is classical as mentioned. Time to think. We get d6, d4 for the score. Anish takes and the knight recaptures. We're heading down the main line of the Najdorf variation with pawn to a6, taking control of b5. And it's such a rich position. It's like the coast of Costa Rica. Here are some of the common moves on the board. Niemann doesn't go for any of them. He plays a sideline with bishop d3, sets up the old pawn bishop seesaw. Now e5 was played, the classical strike in the centre to gain space, even at the cost of this weakened hole on d5. Niemann backpedaling, rejoining the brother, and after bishop e7, castles, bishop e6, the clergyman stacked like oarsmen in a rowing boat. Niemann gets aggressive with pawn to f4, charging forward, opening the king. He doesn't care, and the tension is now maintained between these pawns for a very long time. Anish decides he doesn't yet want to take. Let Niemann's pieces flood forward. He just castles the king, says come at me bro, and Niemann doesn't go f5. It's playable, but you take all the pressure off the centre. Black then reroutes the bishop, a quick d5 comes. It's a different game, possibly playable, but not in this one. Instead we see a4, queenside expansion, common idea. The queen hits c7, and now king h1 gets off the exposed diagonal. You've lifted the king's kimono, and knight bd7 develops. Bishop e3, very natural. Look at the dark squared complex. Rook ac8, natural as sage and onion, hitting the half open file, and Niemann goes to clamp Vegas. Population, Anish Giri. Rook fe8, the mysterious rook move. Always get inside your opponent's head. It's a micro improvement, frees up the f8 square, and h3 now played. Looking to take control here. Maybe one day expand, or not. We're going to see the attacking ideas. Anish chucks in a bunny ear move of his own, and now queen e1 comes onto the dark squared complex. Knight c5 fights back in the centre, and queen g3. The femme fatale x-rays that king through the pawn. Knight h5, get out my house, says Anish Giri. The queen backpedaling. Now we see takes on f4, the tension finally broken, and it's a really interesting positional moment. Taking with the knight looks natural, but the bishop takes instead. It's about to drop to h2 if you don't chuck it off the board. So that's what Giri does. Don't let that one become a monster down here. But now the knight recaptures, and look at the domination of the d5 square. This is why Niemann ceded the bishops. Plus this one wasn't long for this world anyway, if Anish chose to take it. So bishop d8 played to look at the dark squared complex, and now this knight hops forward, hits the queen, poker face. Will Anish notice? Yes he does. He's world number 14 or 15, something like that. Niemann's like number 20, 25, somewhere in that range. He's swimming up the leaderboard, and now we see queen d4, a white widow centralizing. What a powerful piece. Now takes on d5 played. Knight recaptures. You've freed up some pieces, eased the congestion. The queen hits that square. e4's under fire, but it's defended by tactical means, not with a rook. We get the queen sliding to b4, pressuring this pawn. And if you crash through like this, well, you can play takes, queen recaptures, and bang. This shuts a tactical trap. The rooks were split when you played this bishop d8 move, and if the queen say takes here, then the rook drops, you've won an exchange. So the pawn wasn't touched. Instead we see queen g6, given the question mark. Stock Squid wanted bishop h4. Instead this played, it goads e5, opening the bishop attack, but not playable. The knight chops. This is the key point. Black doing great. So instead, Niemann goes rook f3, prepares to stack the two towers, rook f8 played, and now a move that's powerful AF. This rook slides over, powerful as Fabi, a man who not only is number 2 in the world, but also has the Guinness World Record for the longest time spent dressed as a centaur and the most incredible throw in the entire chess universe. Hikaru even vacations there, there's so much space. Magnus is rumoured to have spent some time at the beach inside. Very spacious, copious throw, incredible thing, and now we see bishop g5 played. The rook's finally connected, the bishop activated. Rook g3 comes on the board though, pin and win. h4 could be on the way, although maybe then queen h5, I don't know, but either way it looks nasty. So the queen breaks the pin with queen e6, now queen d4, re-centralizing, eyeing the black monarch, and it actually forces a mistake from Anish Giri. He should take off this bishop apparently, then go for an f5 break. It's pretty complicated stuff. It's a tough defensive task when you click down the lines. But what does he do instead? He plays pawn g6 to try and blunt this rook, but it's a mistake. Can you find the tactical shot at white's disposal here? You've just exposed the king. How do queen and knight take advantage of that? The move to play, which Niemann finds, is the swashbuckling rook takes on g5, because after pawn recaptures, you're getting in on this dark squared complex. If the king steps to g7, same problem, you're still in the line of the queen. So this one was played, knight d7 check, you can come back, but then the rook invades on this f6 square. This is the problem. So f6 was played to stop the invasion after the exchange is won, or won back I should say. It's level on material, but bishop c4, queen going, bishop d5, and we see the difference between the pieces. The domination of that bishop in the center of the board. Now this knight hops back to e6, pressuring the queen. It slides over into b6, pressuring b7, and coming back with knight c5, technically best. Pressure the center here, that kind of thing. But b4 on the way. It's very tricky. So knight f4 played by Anish. He wants to go for the white king. We get takes on b7, offering an exchange of the ladies, but declined. The queen centralized. Black now with the black widow spider. Queen takes on a6. The entire queen side has collapsed, but now Anish needs to try and rip open the king. Play for g4 as the best move, but he plays pawn f5 instead. Also natural, trying to undermine the bishop. We get queen c4 supporting it, and now knight h5 looks for a monster check. So the rook slides up to f3, covers, check comes anyway, king g1, f4 supports that knight, and king f2 calmly played. If the queen takes on b2, then there's queen c3, check. These queens leave the board, not ideal for black when this pawn is running so fast, supported by the bishop. So instead we see king h7 coming out of that threat, now c3 to take care of the pawn, and this queen slides back to e7. Sneaky move, looking for an attacking idea, and Niemann just ignores it with queen b4. g4 comes on the board, and this is just exceptional understanding of the position here, because taking looks really natural. It's the second best move, certainly not bad. But then the queen hits h4, and you're setting up these diagonal discoveries. The knight covers these squares. Even if you step here, you're still in the gaze of the queen. The pawn's covering e3. It gets kind of tricky. So instead of going for that, Niemann doesn't take the pawn. He plays the astounding queen b7, allowing these to leave the board, giving an entire rook. Yes, black is now a rook ahead for what? 2 pawns, but look at the, or 3 pawns, sorry, but look at the quality of these pawns, and this one especially running supported by the bishop. Red carpet rolled out. You know, if you go rook f7, then a6, how do you actually stop this one going through? You know, you just can't get there. There's no way to do it. Whoops, can't take. Then we see this one, this kind of thing. So instead, we see d5 played, desperate counterplay. We see takes played by Niemann, and now knight h5, spinning around. a6, it's on the way. Knight f6 played, preparing to take the bishop. You can actually play b4, let the bishop drop, and use 4 pawns to overload the rook. Incredible. But instead we see bishop c6, knight e8 played, b4 on the board. Look at these ones coming down like space invaders here, and now knight c7 covers the a8 square, but b5 on the board. Rook f6 pressures that bishop, keeping an eye on pawn b6. So instead we see a7, and it forces Giri to give up his rook here. You know, he can't come here, he's just going to lose it. If he tries king g7, well then this one marches. Yes, you can give up a whole bishop, but the pawns reach the 7th, they're too powerful. So we come back. This one was played instead, giving rook for bishop, pawn recaptures, now g5 played, and the king starts marching over. An imperial march. Giri getting destroyed on the clock and the board. Niemann about 30 minutes ahead. The entrance is now cut by the knight, but c7. Incredible move, because if knight captures, which wasn't played, then the king marches in. Knight back, king marches in. It's dropping from the board, the pawn's going to promote. So instead, the king shuffles over, and great technique from Niemann to finish off the game here. Feel free to pause to see how you do it. What does Niemann do? He makes the queen. Best move. The king recaptures. He marches in, takes that opposition, and black's just running out of moves. You can't push a pawn, of course, without losing it. If you give ground with the king, this one steps in. So we see knight c7 played, but the e-pawn marching. Anish is getting trousered, as they say in Russian. 2 pawns coming down. The piece is overloaded. The king steps to stop the pawn, but now this king comes to b7, and it's game over. It was unavoidable. You can go knight c7, but then distracts the king or knight. You can even make a knight here, bishop, queen, doesn't matter. One of the pieces has to go, and you make a queen, or this, you make a queen, or a bishop just for the banter. No, queen would be best, or else you've lost the game. This was the final position. Do smash subscribe if you haven't yet done so. We got Hikaru Nepo coming soon in the Speed Chess Championship, and check out the video on screen for another incredible game from this year's Speed Chess Championship. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.